Hey everyone, I am so excited to be here with all of you today for the employees sharing experiences with work expert panel. I'm really excited that we're getting an opportunity to talk about this topic. Ideally, autistic children will grow up to be autistic adults, and unfortunately, topics around adulthood autism kind of fall through the cracks more often than not in our community, and so many of my mentees today, they want to find employment opportunities, but find a lot of barriers to entry when it comes to that. So I'm so excited that we're getting to hear from actually autistic voices who have had employment opportunities in the past and get to hear a little bit more about their perspectives. Myself, I was diagnosed with autism when I was 4 years old. I was not speaking until I was 2.5, and after overcoming many of my obstacles, am today a professional speaker, author, and autistic self-advocate. And I'm so excited to talk about this topic with all of you a little bit today. So before we get started going into introductions for our esteemed panel, I just wanted to break down what autism kind of looks like in terms of neurodiversity in the workforce today. So some studies indicate that up to 90% of autistic adults are unemployed or underemployed in the United States. Autism today is the fastest growing developmental disability in our country. And when I was growing up, it was about 1 in every 1,000 being diagnosed. And today it's 1 in 51. And we definitely need to do more to provide services across the lifespan, because some statistics indicate that up to 500,000 autistic children will become autistic adults within the next decade. And the CDC just actually indicated just a little while ago that there are actually over 2.2 million autistic adults currently in the United States today. So this unemployment and underemployment number is staggering, and it really means that we need to do more to have conversations and make sure that companies realize that it's not about what the company can do for an autistic person, it's what the autistic person can do for that company. I get the wonderful opportunity in my work today to travel the globe and talk to businesses about the ROI benefits of hiring autistic people in the workplace. Statistics, most of these are done via the Department of Labor, indicate that those with autism, but again, autism is a spectrum. If you met one, you met one. More likely to stay at a job longer, reducing employee turnover, lower absentee rates as well for the majority. But that doesn't mean that that should be structured in a way that doesn't necessarily mean that some autistics are going to need more time, especially when it comes to certain accommodations in the workplace. So keep that in mind. In addition to that, 87% of customers say they prefer shopping at stores and with companies that hire employees with disabilities. Not only is the prevalence of autism on the rise, but most disabilities are on the rise in the United States. We're having more awareness, leading to less people falling through the cracks. We're learning more about the early signs, meaning that we're getting more people diagnosed with not only autism, but a wide range of disabilities. Today in the United States, those with disabilities make up the largest minority in the United States, and often they're one of the most underserved due to the fact that some individuals have high support needs and aren't able to speak up about their needs. So in addition to that, actually the unemployment rate in the United States is double for those with disabilities compared to their non-disabled peers. So again, need to have a conversation about this. In terms of, in addition to that, not only talk about goodwill, but there's higher company standing once and if an employee leaves because of the diversity that was offered. When we talk a lot to human resource departments, one of the things we realize is that a lot of these companies, when they have diversity and inclusion practices, often don't even have disability listed on their literature, which is very alarming. And some of them have never even really heard of the American with Disabilities Act of 1990, which blows my mind. In addition to that, the bonus, one of the things I continue to hear from companies is that, well, I want to give an autistic person a chance, but I think it might affect the bottom line. And what a lot of people don't know today is that most reasonable accommodations actually cost nothing at all. And when they do, it's usually just an onboarding fee on average of $500. So in addition to that, statistics, again, we hear so much from the Department of Labor. When this conference is being held in October, it's also National Disability Employment Awareness Month, which was an initiative started by the Department of Labor to have larger conversations about employment. Statistic indicates that 54 million Americans with disabilities represent the third largest market segment in the United States behind the baby boomers. And according to the National Survey of Consumer Attitudes, 92% of Americans view companies hiring people with disabilities more favorably than those that do not. 87% would prefer to give their business to companies who hire disabled people. And then finally, 5% would be willing to switch to a brand associated with a good cause if price and quality were relatively equal. So that's enough on me. And I would love to have you all get to meet our esteemed panel again via short introductions. And I have some really amazing panelists today. These are the people that you could see on the screen here in this PowerPoint presentation, but you could also see them on the right-hand side of your screen today. We have Amanda, Colin, and Olivia, who are here to share a little bit about their perspectives. So without further ado, I would love to start off with Amanda telling us a little bit about who you are, what you're currently doing for work today, and just anything else you want the world to know about you.
Hey, thank you, Kerry. My name is Amanda Alonso. I am a 37-year-old Latina woman, and I am currently a licensed marriage and family therapist. I own my own private practice here in Southern California. I am finishing up my doctoral degree soon. That will be done. And I have a son on the spectrum also. I got diagnosed in my late 20s and got it put on my medical record in my early 30s. And yeah, and my son was diagnosed when he was young, 2 years old. So that's a little bit about me, and that's a little bit about what I'm doing right now. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda. So excited to have you here. Colin, how about yourself?
Thank you, Kerry. So, hello, my name is Colin James Burke, and I'm from Carmerdale, Pennsylvania. And there's and then my workplace that I worked every Saturdays, like I worked at the Greater Carmerdale YMCA because I assemble party bags, making popcorn, sweeping all the floors, and vacuuming the offices, and then during COVID-19, I sanitized the stair railings because I am diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder because I get nervous and anxiety sometimes while I'm at Marywood, like during test exams and quizzes. And I am 21 years old and I'm a senior year at Marywood University. Thank you.
Awesome. And just for everyone at home, Colin is also local in the PA area. Colin, I may have missed that. Colin, you grew up in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania. I'm still living on campus at Marywood University. And currently I live in Carmerdale, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Colin. Olivia, how about yourself?
Thanks, Kerry. Hi, my name is Olivia. I am 25 years old and I was diagnosed with autism almost 2 years ago when I was 24 years old. And that was the best day of my life, hands down, because it finally answered all of my lifelong questions of why my brain didn't seem to work like everybody else's. So, since being diagnosed, my life has had much more clarity, and it's kind of answered some of the questions from my past. Like when I was working, I used to work in in the sports journalism field, and I was obsessed with sports and I loved writing. And so it was natural to put the two together, but somehow I struggled in a workplace environment and I didn't understand why that was. I was like, I can do the job, I want to do the job, and yet I still had like immense anxiety. And obviously now that I know I'm autistic, I can equate that to, having struggles with communicating and things like that. So because I struggled and I didn't know I was autistic yet, I decided to leave that field and start my own business, because I decided it was probably best if I was my own boss. It kept the anxiety down. So, and I didn't have to deal with as many people because I like solitude. So I started an online edible cookie dough business that ships to all 50 states. And I've been doing that since I was 19. So for about 6.5 years now, and it's been very successful, and it's allowed me to just have a less anxiety filled life, that I can work from home and create my own schedule.
That is so awesome. Olivia, just out of curiosity, so sport journalism. So my first internship was with CBS Sports, and I'm a big sport fanatic.
Okay.
Who are your teams?
So my football team was the Chargers when they were still in San Diego, but then they ditched my beautiful hometown. So kind of don't have an NFL team right now.
Okay.
I started getting into baseball. So I like the Padres. Obviously this season was, it was hard to watch towards the end. And then for college football, I like to root for Cal Berkeley because my grandpa played football there way back when. So that's always been my team for that.
Awesome. Awesome. Amanda, Colin, how about you? Any favorite sport teams?
Oh, the Dodgers all the way. That's why Olivia said the Padres. I was like, oh. I'm
You had a good win last night.
Los Angeles. I'm like, no, the Dodgers all the way. And football Rams all the way. That's where my family's from. They came back home.
Awesome. Colin, I'm assuming you may be a Phillies, Eagle, Sixer fan.
What kind of sports fan?
Just any sport, NBA, NFL.
My favorite NFL football team is Philadelphia Eagles, because I like Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
And then my favorite college football team is Penn State Nittany Lions. Is located at State College, Pennsylvania. My best college football team in the whole wide world.
Awesome. Yeah, and for people
My favorite MLB baseball team was Philadelphia Phillies, and my parents and I like the Yankees.
Okay.
New York Yankees.
Should definitely be some interesting family get-togethers with that rivalry going on.
Do you like Yankees, Kerry?
I'm a Met fan. So my teams, for everyone watching, Mets, Lakers, Packers, Devils. My dad spun me around 10 times when I was 8 years old, and I picked my teams based on fate. So yeah, those were the 4 I ended up with. But anyways, enough about that. So the first question we have for our panelists today is, what are some barriers you've seen for autistic adults trying to find employment? And we'll start off with Amanda and just keep going. Amanda, Colin, Olivia.
Okay. So the barriers that I've seen are the misconceptions or just lack of knowledge of what autism is. Sometimes there are stereotypes that go around, and sometimes those stereotypes can be true. But either way, because of the unknown factor, it can lead to people just when things aren't known, they fear those things. And that's a natural human reaction. But, if there's more education surrounding the awareness factor of this is what autism is, this is how, you know, what I'm able to bring to the table. I find that's able to dismantle that. But that's what one of the biggest barriers that I see is because it's just that unknown factor, which leads to people just being fearful of like, oh, you know, what accommodations are needed, which when the unknown factor happens, that's what comes up is if accommodations are needed and what are they, and is it going to disrupt everything else? Unfortunately, that's where it goes to, at least in that I've seen.
You are correct. Colin, what about you?
Um, do I have barriers? I can't hear your voice.
Yeah, sorry, I put myself on mute for a second. Colin, barriers, we're discussing just any areas where, for example, yourself, what
if I were autistic adults to find employment, and I'll be the hotel manager. Like I'm still on major in hospitality management, so sometimes I get nervous and anxiety about working at a hotel. Is that true?
That you have anxiety sometimes? I know a lot of
Anxiety.
Yeah, I know a lot of autistic adults who sometimes have anxiety, especially right now with so many people working from home and routine changes that are going on. So I could definitely see that being a barrier that not only you face, but that others face within the community. I see many of my mentees who deal with challenges with that. Colleen, are there any other barriers you've seen maybe from just an autistic adult you may know in your local area in terms of trying to find employment?
So if I were autistic adults to find employment, I'll be sometimes I get nervous about working at the front desk, like how to meet the guests, and have the ID number and the driver's license, and have a name, and then and what time the reservation was.
Got it. Yeah, no, I know that a lot of autistic adults do go through that problem because I feel like a lot of times STEM jobs. So when we talk about STEM jobs, we're talking about science, technology, engineering, mathematics, a lot of one-on-one projects where there's not a lot of team oriented, where you don't have to go up to too many people. So I totally get that, Colin. Olivia, what about yourself on this question about barriers?
So, yeah, no, I think one of the barriers that I've seen that I've kind of dealt with too is an autistic adult actually like getting themselves to work, because a lot of times we either can't drive or driving is difficult or anxiety, inducing. So actually being able to get ourselves to the job, I feel like is often like the start of the problem, because even if like you can get yourself to the job, you could already have started your day on the wrong foot if you had to sit in traffic or something. So that's something that I've definitely, when I was working at the NFL Network in Los Angeles, struggled with because of all the LA traffic. And then another thing is, and again, I experienced this, I didn't know I was autistic at the time, but an employer could be like, oh, well, they don't seem to act the right way, like in the office setting or something. Because I know when I was working again at the NFL, I can mask very well. Not that I knew exactly what that was at the time, but at one point I was going through a more, depression, little down curve in my life. And I didn't come in with as much like enthusiasm, and I wasn't smiling, and I couldn't put my mask on. I was too exhausted. I was having meltdowns, and I got in trouble for not like acting happy and correct. Like I actually got called into my boss's office and scolded for not acting the correct way and mingling with my coworkers and having conversations. So I think that's something that autistic people struggle with, obviously communication. And then when we're exhausted, we just kind of want to be to ourselves. And it doesn't mean that our work is faltering. My work never faltered, but because I wasn't doing it with like a super cheery face, and, I got scolded for that. And I think that's, absolutely ridiculous. And kind of like what Amanda was saying with the unknown, is because they didn't know I was autistic. I didn't know I was autistic. So I think maybe some better communication between, if you're autistic, and your employer about when you're having down days, I think could really benefit both of them, because you could be on the same page and just understand what that person's going through.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I love a lot of things that you just said there, from the perspective of open communication in the workplace. Is just really, really key. We talk to employers about the importance of, when you're in the onboarding process, so onboarding for people at home, simply being able to get the employee into the job and get them settled into their specific role. A lot of the times there is collaboration between weekly check-ins, where if somebody, for example, like Olivia, might be having challenges initially at the beginning of time, they can actually have a back and forth conversation about what that looks like. I also like the fact that you mentioned the concept of putting your mask on, because that's something so many of us, I feel like, have to many of us feel like we have to mask, and unfortunately deal with burnout because of that, because we try to not show our characteristics that might be more on the surface at times. For example, when I was a kid, it was stimming, where I would move my hands back and forth. I would kind of just tell myself I couldn't do that because I didn't want to be seen as different. Colin and Amanda, have you had similar experiences of masking in the workplace?
Yeah, I'll answer. Yes, I have, and up until now, I still do. But I found it more stressful when I used to be embarrassed about that portion of what I would do. I always knew I was mimicking the world around me. I just would get highly embarrassed because, again, just like Olivia, I didn't know the words to put to what I was doing, but I knew internally I'm doing something. This is how I'm getting like around in the world. So I struggled a lot because of that, like embarrassment, being found out that I was doing those things. But now in my mid to late 30s, now that I've accepted that it's a skill for me. It works instead of looking at it as a negative, I've reframed it in my mind. I look at it as a positive. So I don't experience the burnout anymore. I did in my 20s consistently. I was in the military for 8 years. So that was been very intense. And I consistently felt the burnout. I consistently was what I call I felt like a short chart, just like I was short charging, like my brain was just like, would have those moments, but it just felt like, oh my God, because it was so intense. But once I accepted that, you know what, I stopped trying to hide and be embarrassed about it. I was like, this actually works to my advantage. So I lean into it, and now it doesn't cause me the burnout. But it took me solid 15 years to get there, probably even longer. But yeah, that was one of the biggest things. And what helped me is kind of what you guys both were talking about, is I have the words to tell people around me, my other colleagues, that, hey, I am on the spectrum. This is what I do. And so now people, when I'm not able to because of a difficult day or whatever, it's not looked at as weird or different. I mean, it is different, but it's not like, what is happening there? They know. So everyone just goes about their day as if, they're just fine. It works for me.
Colin, how about yourself? Colin, you're the youngest of us all, so you may have not had these experiences yet. But have you masked in the workplace? And just from the conversations we're having about like stimming, just trying to pretend and try to get away from certain characteristics that you might share on the surface?
I do wear masks while I'm at the Greater Carbondale YMCA all the time. So unless since 2016 without COVID-19 yet, since first day at work at the YMCA in 2016, I get stronger with it. So I, so my boss Laura Morrow gave me a plan, like how to assemble party bags, and then so I'm not getting stronger with it, making popcorn, and how to sweep the floor around the front desk and the lobby, and then and gyms too, and then when I was wearing mask during COVID-19, I just a little bit struggle how to sanitize the railings by myself, but however I know how to do it.
Awesome.
Is that true?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would think that you were really good at that, simply from what you were emailing me, mentioning that. So awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Colin. So the next question we have for our panelists is, what has been one of your greatest challenges in the workplace, and what has been one of your greatest successes? So maybe just to switch it up, maybe we'll start with Olivia this time and then go to Colin and Amanda.
Okay, so I feel like I'm going to repeat myself because one of my greatest challenges when I still had a workplace job and not, you know, my own business, was the actually getting myself to go into work. Not even so much about the driving, but just that I was so anxious about the day ahead already. It was like, you know, like eternal doom. Like I just didn't know if I could do it. And again, like Amanda said, very much dealing with burnout, which just made, you know, even mundane little tasks really hard to do. And that just makes you even more tired when you have to force yourself to do those things. So that's always been something, even like in school, that I've really struggled with, the whole just being able to get through my day without becoming too exhausted to do what I need to do. So yeah, that's always been a struggle. Success though, in the workplace, both when I was working journalism and now, is my ability to hyper focus and get things done very quickly and correctly. I know when I was at the NFL on Sundays, you had to cut live game highlights. So it was a high stress situation because you were very busy, you got no breaks. But my bosses always said I did it faster than anyone, and they didn't know how like I did it. And to me, I was just like, oh, I thought I was doing it normally like everyone else, but I think my ability to really just like be in that moment and hyper focus has been something that has allowed me to be successful in both journalism and my cookie dough business, because again, I can hyper focus and whip up batches of cookie dough really quickly and make sure I can get all my orders done.
That's awesome. I 100% could, just thinking about my earliest days at CBS, and like my hyper focus and key interests growing up were being the next Larry Bird and the sixth member of the Backstreet Boys. So I was obsessed with sports. I was obsessed with theater. And once I got to CBS, that hyper focus just started kicking in more and more. It's like we would have to get pronunciation guides ready for all the on-screen talent, and we would literally, like, I would be one of the people who would not like spend a minute like looking at my phone or going on to MySpace at the time. As I'm old, I had MySpace. It wasn't Facebook back then. And yeah, no, and that was I think one of my great strengths for sure in the workplace. So Colin, how about yourself? What have been some what has been one of your greatest challenges in the workplace and one of your greatest successes so far?
My greatest challenges in my workplace, since I work at the YMCA in Carmondale, and is my greatest challenge that I like to assemble party bags and every Saturday afternoons for the little kids for parties. And then my most challenges without COVID-19, I like to make popcorn for little kids and adults too. But however, during COVID-19, there's no popcorn to make. However, during COVID-19, my greatest challenges that I like to assemble party bags and as vacuum the offices, and then I sanitize the stair railings. And that's what I did my whole life. And I've one of my greatest successes and is to let's see. Oh, my greatest successes I have chose is to sanitize the railings during COVID-19. Since I always wear masks all the time at the YMCA,
So,
and
Colin,
then
oh, sorry,
and
Colin, go
then
ahead.
and then I'm not finished yet, Kerry.
It's okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
When I graduate into December 2022, I'll be working at the hotel in Scranton called Hilton. And my greatest challenges, while I'm a grown man, I will be a housekeeper that the housekeeper will tell me what to do, like go to each floors and then write on a piece of paper just to find where the rooms are, and you knock on a door to say housekeeping, and that don't struggle me at all or get nervous about it. And then I've I have one greatest challenges is like vacuum the bar, and then the in rooms after the beds and bathroom is all cleaned up.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Colin. Colin, how long have you been working at the YMCA?
Well, over the years, I worked for 3 hours and sometimes 4 hours, and there's a lot of parties. However, during COVID-19, I used to work for 2 hours for birthday parties. However, I worked for 3.5 hours for during summer camp, and since 2019 and this year, because I didn't get nervous about watch with the kids and playing at the gym and then swimming in the pool and help out get our breakfast and lunch. That doesn't struggle me at all.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Colin. Amanda, how about you?
One of my greatest challenges was trying to not be found out, which leads into what we were talking about before. That's why awareness and being able to create a workplace environment where people can truly say like, okay, this is my disability, without any fear of repercussions or fear of losing the job, right? It's so important because, that created like that short circuit type of thing, because I was constantly just like the fear of like, I'm gonna be found out that I'm different or that I look different or that I'm doing something different. And it creates an extra layer of stressor that's just unnecessary. I am with what you guys said earlier, and one of my greatest successes is my hyper focus. When I lean into things that what I would say for me is hyper focus and the ability to mimic the world around me. When I started looking at things that I used to get really embarrassed about, like I would get caught up and gobble up a lot of information about one particular subject, which works into my field, which my special interest is the human mind. So hence why I'm a therapist. But when I leaned into those things, I realized that, you know what, it's what makes me successful, because I'm no longer embarrassed about them. I'm no longer worrying. It's not taking up a lot of my brain space. So I lean into it. I'm able to accomplish things a heck of a lot sooner. I'm able to just gobble up information, which I actually love, and it brings me joy. So I see them now as successes. If you would have caught me in my 20s, I would have thought they were, faults of mine. But now that I've accepted them, I'm like, oh, those are actually things I'm really good at, and I use it to my advantage.
So one thing I wanted to bring up, just based on what you said, and great answers, especially because the whole concept of disclosure is a really, really important topic in the workplace. Have you all experienced, or have all of you disclosed your diagnosis to an employer to receive any form of reasonable accommodations over the years? And if anyone wants to take that question, you're more than happy to.
I have in the academic realm recently. And I think it does mirror, and I'm sure Colin may experience this also. And I know it's a little bit different than just the workplace, but I think they do have similarities. So my first time, I own my own business, so I don't have to disclose to anybody per se, because I'm the boss. So I did in the academic realm, I did receive some pushback, unfortunately, when I first venturing out into disclosing. But now, even in my own, amongst my colleagues, I do disclose to them that I'm on the spectrum. And yeah, so I do now, and it's allowed people to be much more understanding and accommodating in the sense of what Olivia said earlier. When I'm not feeling so great,
Right.
people give me my space. I guess I give off a vibe, like a really intense vibe. I'm a very intense person. So I give off that intensity of just like, I'm really just not like, I drop like my face just goes kind of flat, and I'm just like, ruminating or whatever's going on, and people give me my space. It's no longer, oh, are you okay? Because the thing is to ask and to like actual like touch. And in those moments, I really don't want to be touched. So that's the accommodation I ask for. I'm like, I mean, I strongly don't want people to come near me. So that's my accommodation that I ask for even now. Even if I'm the boss, you could still ask for accommodations, even if you own your own business, from your customers sometimes, like, I'm sorry, thank you for understanding. If I had a really intense stare meltdown, I have to take the afternoon off. But that's how I now frame it. So I do disclose. I
Right.
think, just add on, I know it's kind of long, but I think it's important for someone in my position. I think it's even more important to disclose, even though I know sometimes you don't have to, but I do, because I want people to see that people like us can be in multiple positions.
Mhm.
And this is our reality. This is my reality. I need accommodations. I don't want to keep it hidden as to the reason why anymore.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Olivia, Colin, accommodations that you've ever received? Olivia, maybe at the NFL Network?
Yeah, no, because I just was, I'm trying to think, I was like 6 years off from finding out I was
Oh, God,
autistic.
sorry, excuse me.
Oh
Yeah.
no, you're fine. So yeah, no, I in the workplace I didn't, just because I didn't know. Kind of touching on what Amanda said about telling her, like not customers, but clients, that she's autistic. Now that I have like an answer to like my funky days, because sometimes I'd have a bad day and I couldn't make cookie dough and I couldn't get people's orders shipped out. And I always felt like I had to make up some kind of excuse, like, oh, there was a family emergency, or, oh, the weather was bad, or something like that. Where now that I am comfortable with my diagnosis, I can just tell people the truth and be like, hey, I'm having a bad day, I'm autistic, your order is going to be delayed a day or two. And thankfully 9 out of 10 times people are very nice about it.
Colin, how about you? Have you ever disclosed your diagnosis in the workplace, and have you ever received any accommodations, if so?
Sorry, Kerry, I was on mute.
It's okay. Happens to me
I
almost
was
for the past year
I
now.
diagnosed with autism, and I received accommodation to work at the YMCA. And so, and since 2016, I'm just a little bit nervous about working at the YMCA. That was my workplace. And since 2016, I get stronger with how to sweep the floor, and then making popcorn and anything what I want to do. And that's it. And that's where it gets struggles me.
Got it.
So I am diagnosed with autism when I was a child. And right now I'm working at the YMCA as my workplace to receive accommodation.
Got it. Got it. This is a great segue. That's kind of another reason why I'm so glad Amanda kind of touched on that. Disclosure and accommodations are going to look different for everyone. Again, autism is a spectrum. It's not one size fits all. So reasonable accommodations might look different for whoever you are really meeting in the workplace, their specific job title, their responsibilities that they may have. For me, I've seen, I think the accommodation I've seen most often in the workplace today for those with autism is written instructions towards different job responsibilities, being one of the just key ones to make things a little bit more direct, concrete, and concise. They're not vague in nature. So I think that's one of the accommodations I've seen. Just because we've kind of touched base on our own accommodations and what that looks like for us. Do any of you have like one accommodation that's like you think could be very helpful for employers to consider in the workplace for their autistic employees? And Amanda, why don't we go back to start with you this time around?
I would say if I had to choose one, it's what you said, adding on to that, allowing times to process information. Just takes sometimes time. I don't care how, whatever level of academia a person has, wherever they're at, just allow time to process the information. You know, let them sit and ruminate about it. That for me is like real biggest thing.
Awesome. Colin, how about you?
And anything where you want to ask me?
So Colin, so in terms of all the accommodations that autistic people could currently receive in the workplace, is there one that you think is most important? For example, when I was in the workplace, I never disclosed because I really never needed an accommodation in the workplace. So that was my story. But I have mentees today who thrive with written instructions. Some thrive with assistive technology. Is there one accommodation in particular you think more companies should consider?
When I receive a combination for the YMCA, I'm still diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And since 2016, I gave a combination back to all the workers, known as employees. Before I start working at the YMCA in my work, that's my workplace, since 2016. And then in the future, I'll receive a commendation to work at a hotel in Scranton, known as Hilton Hotel in Scranton, Pennsylvania. After I graduate in December 2022, I still diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. So I will receive a accommodation to work at a hotel.
So Colin, did you ever receive any special accommodations like written instructions for specific jobs that you were doing at the hotel? Did you receive the ability to have a note taker, any recording devices, any?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
In the future, I will.
Okay, for the note taker or the recorder?
Where?
Oh, it's okay. No worries. I thought you were implying that you were going to receive accommodation in the future towards what?
Well, I'm not a note taker. Well, I'm an employee, like hospitality manager.
Got it. Got it. Olivia, what about yourself? If you just had to pick one accommodation you think that the workforce should consider?
Yeah, it's hard to pick just one because I was first leaning towards like allowing us to have longer or more breaks to kind of let our, maybe if we're feeling overwhelmed, our brain can kind of chill out a little bit. But I think going back to what both you and Amanda said about kind of instructions, like for me personally, I'm a very visual learner. So if somebody could take the time to come over to me and actually like show me what I'm supposed to be doing, then you show me one time and I'll remember forever. But if you like send me an email or in a meeting, try to tell me what I'm supposed to do, I either will forget or I just can't like put everything together. But if somebody could take the time to show me or another autistic adult that, is more of a visual learner how to do something, then I think it would be beneficial to both parties, because then we don't have to keep asking like, oh, how do I do this? Or I forgot how to do this. So maybe it'll take a little more time at the beginning because you have to take time out of your day to show the person. But I think in the long run, it would be much more beneficial.
100% agree. And louder for the people in the back. So this question is, if you had to give an elevator speech, so for people at home, an elevator speech could be anything, 30, 60 seconds, trying to convince somebody. Usually it's done for businesses to promote a specific product and sell it. AKA, you can think of Shark Tank as a good example on ABC. If you had to give an elevator speech on why employers should give autistic adults a chance to succeed in the workplace, again, because some statistics indicate that there is a large unemployment rate, what do you think you'd say? Just because we heard just from Olivia right now, how about we go back to Amanda?
Okay. So I would start by saying, I'm put on the spot, get a little nervous. My apologies. But
No worries.
I would start with, employing autistic adults gives, it's twofold, that it'll benefit not only your company, but the community as a whole. Starting with the statistics that you said before, but also including in there that from the hyperfocus, knowing that, autistic adults, a good chunk of us, not all, but a good chunk of us do have a special interest. And we tend to hyperfocus on things which get things done more quickly. So if you spend a little bit time front loading in the beginning, you're able to have an employee that will be there and be consistent with being able to get certain skill sets, certain tasks done, and getting it moved on more quickly and consistently. As even all of us actually here have shown that when able to understand, okay, what do you want from us? This is it. Then we're able to consistently bring it every single time. And then on that other fold is helping the community. Your community benefits from it. If whatever it is that you're trying to sell, you got family members that are going to come in and community members that are going to support you because you are hiring from within your community. You are making a diverse background. You're creating diversity within your company. That's highly important. It brings you a profit. It is profitable. Companies' bottom line, most of the time, is the profit. It's profitable on both those fronts. You have someone who's consistent, and you're also able to tap into the community and create work jobs within the community. It's profitable. It will create a profit. And so that would be my pitch.
Awesome. I love it. And I love what you said about just the whole family dynamic as well. I often tell people that even if we might not have a personal connection, we're all linked to the autism community in some way, whether it's a sibling, whether it's a family member, whether it's a coworker's child is on the autism spectrum. We've all heard of autism in our communities. So I think it's about time that we actually give talented autistic people a chance to succeed. Colin, so if you had to, same question, if you had to give an elevator speech on why employers should give autistic adults a chance to succeed in the workplace, what do you think you'd say?
Do you know what the elevator speech was?
Yes. So you don't even have to say an elevator speech. It would just, if you wanted to just tell people why it's important to hire people with autism in the workplace. Why do you think it's important for autistic people to have a chance to succeed in the workplace, Colin?
Yeah, if I'm an autism adult to chance to succeed in my workplace at the YMCA, I would see if Laura Morrow will hire me as a staff member, member services, like work at the YMCA for birthday parties on Saturdays, like to assemble party bags, and then maybe vacuuming every Saturday afternoons. That doesn't get struggled with me. So I'm still an autistic adult to work at the YMCA.
So Colin, I guess my question would be to you is, so let's say there is an autistic adult who was unemployed, just somebody you've never met before.
Oh, I don't met the unemployed autistic adult, but I know I have another autistic adult was named was Carl, was my friend from Carmel area high school. That's why he works at the YMCA every Sundays.
Nice. And is it and do you appreciate the fact that he has a job and that an employer took a chance on him? Or didn't
Yes.
taking a chance on him,
No,
but
no,
like
no.
but you do appreciate that he has a job today?
Yeah, he works. My friend Carl, who has autism just like me, like to work at the YMCA as a staff member services also. Right now, I'm still an autistic adult. And I still have autism spectrum disorder, but because I get nervous at the YMCA anymore.
Awesome. Olivia, how about you?
I would say that autistic adults can be some of the best employees for some reasons we already stated, which is our ability to hyper focus and get things done quickly and usually very precisely and with no mistakes, because a lot of times whatever field we're working in is our special interest. So a lot of times we're extremely knowledgeable about whatever is needed for said job because it's a special interest. So we often know everything there is to know. So maybe it'll be a little different with us not wanting to mingle with coworkers or maybe needing extra breaks, but in the long run, I think it would benefit your company because we're very hard workers and can deal with the distractions because we can just tune those right out.
Yeah, I agree. And at the end
can I mention one other thing too?
Oh, yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Just a funny point. Before I knew I was autistic, and I was running my business, a lady reached out to me and she basically pitched me an elevator speech to hire her autistic son, who was a couple years younger than me. And she basically said, if you have a mundane task that you maybe wouldn't want to do. So I find labeling my cookie dough jars and taping up boxes a little mundane. And so I hired him and he'd come every Tuesday and Thursday and he would label and tape, and he was the most fantastic labeler and boxer known to man, I think. So she literally gave me an elevator speech and it completely worked.
Oh, awesome. I love that. Oh, that melts my heart.
I'm still an autistic adult in my workplace. And since 3 days over the summer, on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, I would just work at the YMCA for the summer camp. That I just got nervous about how to set up the table for breakfast and lunch for the little kids. So my friend Jason, who helped with me how to separate the table for all those kids, for all ages, for having a breakfast and lunch, and then the lifeguard told me what to do, put all those pool toys in the pool so that the kids will have fun in the pool, and then while they are in the pool, my job is to watch the kids. That doesn't get struggled me. However, if the pool is over, so I just clean up and put back in the closet until the next day. And then and before lunch, I separate the table once again. That doesn't get struggled me.
Awesome.
And I get nervous about it. And then
Hey, Colin. Hey, Colin, just one quick thing. We're about to go into our final thoughts. So I'd love for you to continue that thought. Would it be okay if I just go to the next slide and I'll let you just go right back to?
Sure, Kerry, no problem.
we were going to just go over this one just in the spirit of time. Any final thoughts that any of you have on this topic of autism and employment? And I can't thank you all enough for joining us and our esteemed panelists as well. Colin, if you want to continue your thought, just any final thoughts, anything else you'd like to add?
My final thought, I'm still an autistic adult. Like during summer camp in the afternoon, I didn't get nervous about how to separate the table for lunch for the little kids, and then I did a different thing to do, like to call group 1, 2, or 3, and so the kids will line up and get our food ready so I can watch the kids and then count the kids to see how many are eating, like the first meals. And it doesn't struggle me at all because I know everything what I'm going to do in my workplace.
Awesome. I wish I had your ability to be confident in what you do, Colin, because you know what you're doing. I feel like half the time I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I'm going to go in there with passion and just try my best. So good on you for doing that. Amanda, just throwing this off to you. Any final thoughts? Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, you know, in regards to employment and seeing those that are different as, you know, being able to be employable, I think it is really important to what we said on that, especially on that last end. We are employable. Those on the spectrum, those with autism, they are employable. It's just a matter of giving them a chance, giving us all a chance. We all had someone take a chance on us, at least in my experience. I had multiple people take a chance on me, and people that didn't know that they supported me in that crucial moment when I needed support the most. Just as Colin was saying with a friend, when he got scared about setting the table, someone came over and was able to assist him. Almost everyone needs that support. We may just need it a little bit more and in very crucial moments. But with that added support, that, as you said in the beginning, Kerry, doesn't cost anything to the company.
Yep.
We can meet the standards. Sometimes it just takes us a different way of getting there. So patience is key, but we are employable and we show up. We will show up if given the chance.
Patience, also pursuing confidence. I can't say enough about that. Olivia, any final thoughts? Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I always tell this to myself, but I love this opportunity I get to tell other people, is that you truly can do anything you put your mind to. If you're willing to work hard enough and you're determined enough, you can accomplish it. No matter how crazy it seems, you might have to do it a different way than our neurotypical counterparts. So you might not do it the cookie cutter way, like say going to college or something like that. It may take you longer than our neurotypical counterparts, but if you are determined enough, you will find a way and you can achieve whatever you set your mind to.
Beautiful. Well said. Well said. Well, again, I can't thank you all enough for joining us this hour for this conversation, which we need to have more and more in our communities. This is a panel conversation because it's pre-recorded on demand for everyone at this conference. I am giving you the opportunity to just learn a little bit more about our esteemed panel. They have been gracious enough where if you have any questions, they've included their email addresses and also a way of following them on social media as well. Amanda, obviously, and Colin, Olivia. In addition, if you have any specific questions for me, my email is right there as well. Feel free to send questions if you have anything based on what any of our panelists had to say today. Thank you all so much for joining us. And just as a reminder, as part of our conference this year. There will also be an on-demand presentation that I will be discussing, which you can check out as part of your conference registration on curriculum strategies and inclusive education. Definitely check that out if you want to learn a little bit more about those two key areas. And again, thank you so much to all of our amazing panelists, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Kerry.
Thanks, Kerry. It was so nice to see you.
Oh, it was so nice to see you too, Colin.